Welcome to the Bible in History. I'm Jeff Johnson. With me today, of course, is my mother, Rebecca Johnson. Today we're going to be talking about the genius of ancient man. We're going to be delving into how smart were they. And so I'm going to begin reading Genesis 4, verses 19 through 22. And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. And Ada bare Jabel. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah.
This gets us into, really, we're going to start having fun now.
Yeah.
We've laid some serious foundation up to here. We have explained a lot to you. We are super excited that now we get to have fun. Now, we had read in Ecclesiastes 1, 9 through 11, something very interesting that is going to shed a little bit of light of why we don't talk about this much. Yep. Let's hear that again, because I want us to remember that.
Ecclesiastes 1, 9 through 11. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, See, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after.
Okay, so we've already been told in the Bible, you're not going to remember. We don't remember things.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is getting us into a really great period. Things that we don't talk about because we just don't remember. Mm-hmm. Let's start with these 3 brothers. We have discovered they are the 4 times great-grandsons of Cain. And his son Enoch founded the city of Enoch in the land of Nod. And now we've gone on. And we have these 3 brothers, and they bring us into a wonderful, exciting little bit of history. Let's start with Jabel. Mm-hmm. Jabel was the founder of the nomadic ranch lifestyle.
Which is essentially to say cowboys.
Exactly. This was around 3874 BC. And we have to keep in mind, vegetarians, the people are vegetarians. Right. And so these animals were not ranched for food.
Yeah, they're meat cattle by any means. These are...
Right. So we're looking at religious sacrifice because that had already been established. Yep. We are looking at clothing. Clothing. So you have wool from sheep. You have alpacas are also used. There are other animals.
Yeah, and we don't know what they might have used from animals that are now extinct, kind of that woolly rhinoceros style or the woolly mammoth, We don't know if maybe they could have used wool from those kinds of animals. So lots of different animals that they could have used.
They also would have used them for work purposes. And we don't know. We can't prove this biblically, okay? This is just our opinion. But they would have used, we feel like, dinosaurs for their use. Imagine a dinosaur. I think the Flintstones image of a dinosaur is probably not as far-fetched as we might think it is. I think, and we're going to discuss this after the flood, but it would make sense.
You get, like massive sauropods that can carry huge loads. Triceratops could easily take the place of oxen in plowing fields, different things like that. Like there's a huge diversity in the dinosaurs and a huge diversity of uses for them.
Exactly. And keep in mind, the animals as well are still vegetarian at this point. Yeah. They are not meat eaters, so they would have been much more tameable. They weren't a threat to humans. So this is going on. It's interesting that according to evolutionary anthropologists who do not believe in God, there are like farming is the most important step in the building of civilization. And yet, that started right out of the gate with Adam.
Yeah. Immediately. It's kind of like your first commandment. You're going to farm, you're going to take care of the ground, you're going to civilize.
So here we are with Jabel now founding the nomadic rancher lifestyle. And let's be perfectly frank, Jeff's favorite part about this, and we're going to talk more about it after the flood, was their ability to genetically.
Yeah, and without the use of any kind of science or modern like genetic manipulation. It was all just the breeding. They knew what they were doing. They could breed out very specific traits very quickly and easily. And we see that in the Bible later on, and it's very fascinating to me. Like,
it is
how detailed they got, and it wasn't just for strength or whatever, appearances and different things like that. So it's just a lot of interesting details.
It really is. So we have this great nomadic lifestyle with Jabel, and we are really, I mean, we're talking about now really advancing society, even from an evolutionary standpoint, which we don't agree with, but you know, they are right. Farming is important. Yeah. But God already established that. So let's move on to the next one, who would be my favorite. And this is Jubal, Jabel's brother. I often wonder if they're twins, Jubal,
Jabel.
I
was thinking that as I was reading this out. I was like, Jubal, Jabel, probably twins.
Probably twins. He is the inventor and founder of musical instruments aside from one's voice. Right. God established all of us with a musical instrument. You might say, oh, I can't play a musical instrument, but you've got one, you could learn how to sing. Now, unfortunately, in modern society, because we have allowed such a heavy influence of really, really wicked music, even in our churches, to influence us, we are producing tone-deaf children and young people today.
It's not just bad for your spirit, it's bad for your singing ability.
It's really, really bad. This
a lot
nonsense,
of intricate stuff that's...
And I could just go on and on about this, so I better stop. But oh my word, I hate contemporary Christian music. That's garbage. It isn't music, it's noise. And you can just lump all the rock right in with it. So anyway, so he is the inventor and founder of the musical instrument. Okay, the stringed, which is the harp, but then that takes you into a myriad of string instruments throughout history. You're talking harps, lutes, the mandolin. There's so many different stringed instruments.
When people think of strings in the modern day, most people will go, you know, violin, cello, kind of the basics. But there's a lot more to it than just that.
And if you look culturally, go to the cultural base instruments, the cultural instruments of China, the cultural instruments of Europe.
Very gorgeous sounding instruments.
Oh my goodness. And you will find there's kind of a very similar thing going on here. If you go across Mongolia, China, Europe, into the medieval instruments, you're going to find a lot of similarity, and that's all stemming from before the flood. With Jubal. He also did the organ or the woodwind instruments. Now, we think of our modern instruments, but they've come from a different base. If you start to study back in history, your instruments, your woodwind instruments, I play the flute. Obviously, it's metal, and it, you know, but it would have started out in more of a bamboo form. You can see this throughout. Again, I love this, uniformly across the world. Go to their ancient instruments, and you're going to see bamboo instruments that are played like the panpipe. You're going to see the wooden flutes, the wooden clarinets, the wooden recorders. And so, like, this all stemmed from before the flood. So we're talking like 3800 BC. All of our musical instruments are established.
Easy instruments to just kind of willy-nilly just throw into, you know. These are very complicated. There's a lot of math going into these. You got to know exactly how long you need with the woodwind stuff, where to put the holes, even just a basic panpipe. You got to know how long you want each of those stems to go. There's a lot of knowledge that goes into this to create the sounds. It's not something you're just going to sit down and make for the fun of it. Like, you got to really know your stuff to get these things out.
You know, music, there's a quote, music cuts across diverse cognitive capabilities and resources, including numeracy, language, and perception. Music and its instruments is very important in cultural development. if you know anything about music, there are distinct musical sounds that are unique to each region of the world.
Oh, yeah.
It is part of their cultural fabric that music is woven in together.
Yeah, you watch any kind of movie, you know, you can listen to the song and know, oh, this movie's based in China, or this movie's, you know, medieval or whatever, African or Egyptian, Middle Eastern, Native American, whatever. You know, even time eras.
Yes.
Sometimes you'd be like, oh, this is the 60s or whatever.
Right, exactly. Music is one of the most powerful tools in society. Now, I want to keep in mind that, of course, Satan has twisted music in a tremendous way to his advantage. But God created music. I have heard Christians say, well, we shouldn't have instruments in church and we should just sing because Satan, it's all Satan. Except God created music, not Satan. God did. He gave us this ability. And music is not amoral. It does affect you for good and evil. There's so much. If you don't know about music, can I recommend you go to majestymusic.com, get Pop Goes the Weasel, learn about your music, get strong in this area. But our music, our musical instruments that we very much enjoy today come from Jubal.
Yes.
And it is an amazing thing. And it shows an extremely advanced culture and society because of the mathematics involved.
Mm-hmm. And this is not something that's, quote, necessary for life.
Exactly.
This is an entertainment. This is something they're doing for fun, maybe concerts, maybe just goofing off at their instruments at home or whatever, but this is not something that they're doing to survive. This is something they're doing because they have excess time. Which is something that
really
evolution
great. Yeah.
is definitely contradicting.
Yes, and it's just an amazing thing. It starts right off the bang. So music. I love music. We're a very musically inclined family. We sing. We have some recordings, so music for me is very important. And here it was all the way back in 3800 BC. Right. 3847 BC, we're getting this established. Now, we have talked about the work, the ranching lifestyle. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the entertainment. Tubal-Cain, their half-brother. Jabel and Jubal's half-brother. And I love this, father of the iron and brass industries. Now, I want you to think about what you've ever heard about an evolutionary model. They talk about the Stone Age, the Iron Age,
the Stone Age, I think they go Stone Age, Bronze Age, and then the Iron Age.
Okay, guess what? No, iron and brass together, same time, way back, 3847 BC. We're starting all this around 38. It's the 3800 BC. Tubal-Cain is the father of iron and brass industries. They are already digging. Yeah,
which is, you go into this and you're like, oh, he's making iron, but they had to dig the ore out, so they have mining operations to some degree.
Yes.
And he's working with these, and he's an instructor.
Yes.
Which is to say he's a master of this. Like, he learned from somebody else, and he's got this, and he's teaching others, and he's saying, this is how you work with these particular metals.
And to be a master craftsman, you have to have a lot of experience under your belt. There are a few master craftsmen around the world today. If you go to Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia, you can watch master craftsmen teaching the trade to a new generation, which is so important. You find them in England doing ancient trades that are almost forgotten, and they're bringing them along. And here he is, a master craftsman, teaching this. Now, I have a whole thing on everything necessary to make brass.
It sounds easy when you're just smelting metal, but it's so much harder than it sounds to get the heat.
So, for example, brass stock, like if you were going to get brass, you could get brass in a variety of forms. Plates of brass, sheets of brass, strips of brass, foil brass, rod brass, bars, wires, billets, depending on what you're going to use them for. Okay. Okay. A regular piece of brass, a plate of brass, okay, is usually about 0.2 inches thick. Do you understand how thin this is? And brass foil can be 0.0005 inches or 0.013 millimeters.
Tiny little thing.
And the thing is, you're like, oh, but that's today. No, they found this in archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing it, and you're sitting here thinking, oh, well, they did everything with their hands. Are you nuts? Of course they didn't do everything with their hands. They had machines, guys.
Yeah.
They were incredibly advanced. The appropriate amount of suitable copper alloy, because you need, brass is a mix, okay?
Yeah.
So the copper alloy has to be melted at 1,920 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 1,050 degrees Celsius. You add zinc to get the level of brass you want. Zinc and copper melt, vaporizing, making molten metal. Not metal. Okay, let's think about that. 1,920 degrees Fahrenheit or 1,050 degrees Celsius that you have to get this fire to create the alloys to a metal, to a liquid point so they can be mixed to create the brass.
Incredibly hot.
We're talking major furnaces here. Then they have to be rolled hot.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a cold rolling process that can be done. Anyhow, this was an extremely advanced intelligence and intricate work.
Mm-hmm.
If you see, even after the flood, some of the archaeological evidence they found, it is laughable to say this was done by hand with a little chisel.
Yeah, no, this stuff,
I fully believe they had lathes, they had machine processes.
All kinds of stuff.
There is nothing new under the sun. He read it. We need to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
What we have, we already had. They probably had major plants like we have today.
Yeah.
These weren't little guys in tiny workshops.
Pretty fast. Like they had a lot of uses for it. They putting it out there all kinds of places. They would have easily had factories and whatnot.
We already know they had cities.
Yep.
People needed jobs. Nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, and we've already seen the entertainment with the music and stuff. You know, they're most definitely using metals and stuff for decorations and for just ornamentation of
homes, person.
Yeah.
You know, the
special buildings,
bracelets, the crowns, the jewels. This was an amazingly advanced society.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that we have reached the pinnacle of civilization today is laughable. And we're going to see more of this as we go. We haven't even begun to be as advanced as they were.
Yeah.
And I want you to understand, when as Christians we believe we've reached the pinnacle of society today, we're the most advanced we've ever been. If as a Christian you're thinking that, you, even if you didn't mean to, you're taking on an evolutionary opinion. Yep. We are not getting better. Society is getting worse. Society is getting dumber. Mm-hmm. We are not intelligent. Our computers are intelligent. Our phones say they're intelligent, but they're kind of dumb. They never work. But it isn't our brains that is doing the work. Mm-hmm. It is a mechanical brain that is doing the work. Kids today don't know what children in the past, even 100 years ago, knew. Yeah. We are not smarter. We're not getting better. God created perfection, and the level of society was so high.
Yeah.
And we are just tanking ever deeper into the abyss of stupidity. So nothing new under the sun. Love these guys, Jubal, and Tubal-Cain, their half-brother, who just in the 3800s BC just advanced civilization to an extreme level.
And it's also important to realize these were only 3 people that are mentioned
Yes.
in the Bible. There was most definitely way more that's going on. We don't know the extent truly of their technology and where it lied yet. You know, like you said, nothing's new under the sun. Things, however, did probably look different, and so we're not really sure how things would have operated in their totality, but there's so much going on pre-flood, and so quickly after creation too. I mean, it's right off the bat. They're making, you know, they're mining, they're making fires that, it's very difficult to get a fire that hot. You know, you can't just burn, even buildings in full blazes don't burn that hot. So you gotta know how to create huge fires and all this different stuff, and that's not even, this is just a tiny little portion of what we get to see, and it's like so much more out there.
Next time we're going to talk more. We're going to talk a little bit about giants. So come back and
it'll be a lot of fun.
Listen to that one. That's going to be fun. So
so join us next week. We'll enjoy talking about those and what was going on there, and some fun stuff with that. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, please feel free to email us at thebibleinhistory@gmail.com. We'd love to try to answer your questions for you. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe to our channel.
You can also follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and Google Podcasts.